Welcome to Perfect Pitch, a podcast by Kickstart, where we reveal the minds of both investors and entrepreneurs throughout a startup's journey. I'm your host, Karen Zelnick, and today we have Alex Shamir, co-founder of Yofi, and Tanner Potter, an investor at Kickstart. Welcome, both of you. So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alex, let's tell our listeners a little bit about you. So you were a senior product manager at Nike before you transitioned into a technical project manager role at Apple. You became obsessed with bots. Is obsessed a fair word to say?
I think I would say caveat it in the past as yes. Now bad actors and policy abusers in general. Okay. I am wearing a sweatshirt that says bot mitigation is my passion. It's my Yofi swag. And so I think it's a fair assessment.
Okay, great. I love it. And that led to the founding of Yofi. You were recognized recently as Forbes 30 Under 30 watch list, which is amazing and well-deserved. What else should we know about you?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I love raccoons. So that's part of our Yofi mascot and logo. I was a chemistry nerd. I started working in a chem lab. Shout out to Dr. Laren Tobert and EA Weeks at Georgia Tech at 15 years old. Had a lot of fun hobbies.
Whoa, at 15?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Just had to make sure we all heard that.
Making us all, yeah.
I mean, I think most of people love organic chemistry. It's, the most fun hobby. And then, for fun, I love being with my dog, being outside. So skiing, snowboarding. I went to college. I'll call Utah and Montana home. So anything that gets me outside of the mountains, kind of like that.
Yeah, I love that. What about raccoons? I have to ask before we move on.
Okay, so people tell me my personality is kind of like a raccoon with access to broadband drinking a Red Bull, which I think is pretty fair once you get to know me. They're just the cutest little animal you've ever seen. And they're like digging for trash and they find gold in trash. And I just love that about them.
That's so great. Okay, Tanner.
How do you follow that?
How do you follow that? Like, what's your favorite animal?
Ooh, I would go... I like gorillas.
Nice.
Oh,
yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I've seen gorillas in person in the wild. That was one of the cool things I've done in my life. And so now, ever since I saw them, actually I liked it before that, but went and saw them in Rwanda. That sealed the deal for me on baby gorillas. And
that's amazing. That's amazing. We should put some photos from your trip there in the show notes because I would love to see them.
Yeah,
that's so cool. That's amazing. We'll have a link to your bio. It's great to have you back on the show. We just learned your favorite animal. Is there anything else the audience should know about you that they don't yet know about you?
No, I would say Alex actually spurred this. She's skiing and snowboarding this year. I've gone back and forth on my life skiing and snowboarding, but this year I've been doing both skiing and snowboarding. I like trying new things. So that was this year. I'm not that good at either, but it's fun to go back and forth and get some powder while snowboarding, and then skiing's, moguls and just going straight down is a little bit better.
It's hard to be ambidextrous with skiing and snowboarding. It's very hard to go between the both, just saying. It's
you put your weight differently, right? I even found it really hard to go from water skiing to snow skiing because in water skiing, all the weight's in your heels, but snow skiing, it's all in your toe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, it is. But you get it's funny because then you start to see different things you like about it. Like snowboarding is kind of closer to the ground, and through powder, you float, and you get a little more floating sensation. But then the transitions between everything kind of sucks, taking off your bindings, getting off the lift, and skiing is just a little more smooth that way. So they got their positives and negatives.
Alex, before we move on a little bit, I do want to ask you, where did the name Yofi come from? We'll talk more about the company later, but the name, where did the name come from?
So our original name was BotNot, and we kind of pivoted away from only dealing with bots. So we're thinking about a name, and we're a customer intentionality platform. So we're thinking, okay, good customer, bad customer. And I kept saying my dog's name, and my dog's name is Yofi. And I was like, oh, Yofi always means great. I'm a big pun person, so he's always a great boy.
Awesome. Okay, let's dive into the discussion a little bit. Alex, you... Back in 2017, the beginning of your career, you were a PhD student actually studying chemistry. We know that's a passion for you. What changed? You're not a chemist. You're not doing what happened?
I think chemistry just gives you a good baseline skills. It makes you extremely analytical, gives you a lot of grit. It makes you fail a lot, right? Because chemistry, you're always testing a hypothesis and you're in a lab something environmentally could go wrong in a lab, something could be contaminated, and it just goes wrong. And I was working harder than I ever did in my life in a chemistry lab and doing physical chemistry, so computational chemistry. And I just realized as long as I've been doing that, at that point, I've been doing chemistry for almost 10 years. It wasn't for me. I wasn't loving it. I wasn't passionate about it. Waking up in the morning became very arduous because my heart wasn't there. And it's not just the failing aspect. It was, do I want to be in a lab every day doing the same monotonous labor constantly? And the answer was no. It didn't allow me to be creative.
I love that. I recently read a book called The Dip. It's really short. I think it takes like an hour to read, but I love the concept of like, is this just a dip or is this actually not the life I want to choose? And then, there's a lot of power, and the most successful people learn the right things to quit. You have to quit the right things. But Tanner, I love your thoughts on that. I don't know how to word this exactly, but like, was that a red flag for you? Was like changing course and doing something different after having done something for 10 years? Like, how do investors think about pivots in life courses?
No, in fact, they're usually positives. Maybe it's because there's so many stories of Steve Jobs and Zuckerberg and Bill Gates, all these people, they dropped out. So within every founder, there's a bit of a rebel. There's a bit of like following an unorthodox path. And so when we saw that with Alex, it checks the box. You know that she's smart. Like you said, you know that she's gritty. If she's in there, she can be detailed, but also like she is not going to follow the traditional path. And so when we think about investing in founders, like that's by definition what they are, people who are going to go after something without resources to try to solve a problem. So no, I think for us, it was like, okay, this is really interesting. And she's following her path.
Yeah. And Alex, what advice would you give to a listening entrepreneur who started something, whether it's a company or a degree, and now they're having sort of second thoughts? Like, how do you decide if quitting is the right choice?
It's going to be the most cliche advice, but the advice I hold to myself.
We love it. Yeah.
Always listen to your gut. Your intuition will always be right. You need to there's wake up calls. There's always going to be red flags. The more you ignore it, the harder it's going to be. Life, in my opinion, needs to be organic. The more inorganic it is, the more you force, the harder it's going to be. The second you feel that way, it's time to hop off that boat and you'll find the right path. It's really, really cringe, and I'm sorry, but it's the truth.
I don't think it's cringy. I don't think it's cringy. Like, it's cliche. Some cliches are cliches for a reason, I think.
No, I think that, I think that checks out for me. Like, especially when I think you've developed intuition in your gut. Like over time, you'd been doing it for 10 years. Like you don't need any more data. You know, if you think of your intuition as like some mix of your natural proclivities and the data that you've acquired and through life experience, 10 years in, you're going to know, okay, like this is not right for me. And so you can really trust your intuition. If you obviously have to give things a fair shake before you can make those decisions at times. And that's what, the testing hypothesis period often we see our founders go through, and whether that's on a business front, whether that's like whether they want to be a founder or not. I think there's different things you can do to like help you start to build some intuition. But yeah, then I agree with Alex. It's like it's the cliche, what feels right here, and go with that and oftentimes that leads you to do things that like isn't what everybody else would tell you to do. And that's when you usually find like the unique idea, you find alpha, you find cool opportunities, is when you don't just do what everyone else is doing.
Did you find that to be the case, Alex?
Yeah, I remember starting at Nike and getting into the bot space. And then I moved to Apple. And by the way, Apple was my dream company. I was like, perfect. I'm going to stay at Apple. I'm so excited to be here. Love the product. But it was an itching feeling of like, this is what I should be doing. And then going into Apple being like, hey, I don't feel like this is the right place for me. I don't feel like I'm doing the right thing. I don't feel like I'm on the right path. And it was that pivot that opened my new chapter in my life. But if I ignored that, I don't think I would have been as successful and as happy as I am now.
Tanner, you mentioned there are things people can do to sort of learn to hone their intuition. Do you have any examples?
Yeah, it's kind of like a chicken and egg thing where you need experience to get experience. And how do you get the first experience? I just think there's way, I remember when I was deciding whether I wanted to in undergrad, my mom was like, oh, you're smart and you got good grades, so why don't you be a doctor? We have a lawyer in the family, we have an academic, like, why don't you go do this route? And I remember I went and shadowed my uncle who was a podiatrist, and then I shadowed a family friend who was a family doctor, and then I started taking some of the classes, and I gave myself some experience to try and figure that out. And I was like, oh yeah, that's like not the right fit for me. So I think on the startup front, you see that where sometimes people, like if they're for example, they're thinking about a startup, they start advising, they start working on the side, they do it. And then they're like, oh yeah, this actually fits my, this resonates with the way that I operate. And so like, I think it's just starting with running little test experiments. And then ultimately, you don't really know until like you take the full jump on something until you burn the ships. And so it comes down to that. But then I think your intuition can guide you a little bit there.
So Alex, your intuition has guided you to leave chemistry. You're at Apple, your dream company. What led you to start Yofi? How did the idea come about? Walk us through the story.
Okay, one, I don't know if people have context of how Tanner and I met.
Give us the context. No, give us the context.
Tanner and I were both graduate interns at Nike together one summer. And I have a personality where I'll talk to practically anyone. And we're sitting at a table. And at that table, they asked us a question of, where do you see your life in the future? Where's your next 10 years going to be at Nike? And I remember raising my hand and I said, I'm going to be on a ranch with my dogs after selling a tech company. Tanner looked at me. I looked at Tanner and I was like, we're going to be friends. And who can do more push-ups right now, me or you? Literally what happened. Amazing. I don't know if Tanner remembers this, but I remember this. So how Yofi more or less started is I was on a growth team at Nike and they gave me a project to work on. And the project was figure out the bot mitigation strategy for Nike China. Great. So I started looking at data and I created a deck that was called 2 a.m. Thoughts. And I was looking at data that people were like, oh, great, our growth numbers are going up, but why is our AOV falling? Why is our new coupon rate falling down or going up? And I started asking these questions on like, what are our legitimate users? Why are these accounts fluctuating month over month? And just diving into that data made me fall in love with this field. Going over to Apple, I can't talk about what I did, saw a similar pattern. And I'm like, all these retail companies and the largest retail companies in the world, including the ones that my co-founders worked at, are seeing the same issues. Why aren't people questioning their legitimacy of their data and their customer intentionality? That's our core data that we're making for everyday decisions, whether that's machine learning, procurement, or more. If that's faulty, you can't build anything correctly.
So why aren't they questioning it?
Data and data integrity is a hard topic. Understanding the difference and the nuances of customer intentionality is a hard problem to solve. Policy abuse isn't simple, right? Because you have to think about, how is this customer interacting? Are they masking as a bot? Are they masking as a return abuser? It's a lot of questions and it's a lot of orgs in a big company having to talk to each other. And the bigger the company you are, you realize the less and less that people talk to each other. So it's really understanding how to stitch the data and also where can we be the most useful or be the most utilized.
Mm-hmm. So this like passion for solving this problem led to Yofi. You connected with your co-founders. Tell us a little bit about that founding story.
Yeah, so Andrew and I helped build the bot mitigation strategy together at Nike. We couldn't stop thinking about it. Andrew went to a bunch of different retail companies and we would just be pinging each other on WeChat, like, hey, did you see this? Hey, did you see that? I was actually driving because I did policy abuse myself on a mattress. And I was like, why aren't people thinking about this? Why aren't they solving it? I called my brother, who ended up being one of our co-founders as well, because Jordan scaled companies from like 0 to 300 million at IBM. He's insanely smart and like the best product person I know. And I was like, hey, I just want to talk this through with you. People will talk about fraud. They'll talk about friendly fraud. They'll talk about bots from like a WAF and network layer, but no one talks about policy abuse. And like to say policy abuse and fraud are very similar is like, they're very nuanced. It's extremely different. So like, I'm going to go back and go on a little tangent. I was listening to a podcast of George Kurtz, who's the CEO of CrowdStrike. It's a $65 billion company. And it's like he's talking and having to correct people with the differences between malware and breaches. It's the same thing with us, where it's like going back and tying this together. It's No one's ever thinking about this. In 2020, it was all about growth of a company. Let's build a direct to consumer business. No one thought about the data play and how much it's eating their actual bottom line.
Tanner, and so she brings this idea to you. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. So when I was at Nike, the sneakerhead culture, this obsession with getting Air Jordan 1s or specific brands was just on the cusp of just becoming mainstream. And then with 2020 COVID, we saw this like just insane mainstreaming of sneakers and all these secondary marketplaces where you could buy them, and this demand happening. And so it started to become obvious that like there were in kind of like call it hype sneakers or sneakerheads, like this was happening where bots were coming in and buying up a bunch and then reselling them, and people were paying exorbitant amounts. And I can actually remember when Alex talked to me first about it, the example she gave is that it wasn't just like arbitrage that was happening there. People were finding a 20% coupon and buying Air Monarch 87s, which if you don't know are really cool shoes. They're kind of like
the biggest dad shoe in the world.
Yeah. They're like they're dad shoes for like 60-year-olds and plus that you only see in Florida, But
Amazing.
people were buying up a bunch of these, getting them for 20% off, reselling them. And then for the ones they didn't resell within a 30-day period, they were sending back to Nike. And so you were seeing huge bullwhip effects on the supply chain. It costs $14 plus to just return and backstock those shoes. And so for me, when Alex and Jordan and the team first came and talked to us about it, it was like there's no doubt there's an issue going on. And just as if you think about physical retail, there's so many there's actually physical guards they have to put in place. They have currency checks on dollars, like there's leakage where people are stealing things. Like there's all sorts of things that are happening in the physical sphere that we don't think about, but like that there's institutions and guardrails and things that have been put in place. Whereas online, like it's still a little bit of the Wild West. And so when you think about e-commerce brands, how do they deal with a bot or a bad actor that's buying up 10% of the stock of something that's scarce and then like reselling it? Is that what you want? Is that what the customer experience is? So there's all sorts of ramifications. And I think that was just the beginning of understanding, like that was the tip of the iceberg.
Well, now like the hottest topic is returns abuse. Like we've been doing that for 2 years at this point. Like it's been a thing for the last 11 years on e-com. So it's people who are wardrobing, I'm wearing this hoodie, I'm going to return it, I'm going to send back the package or a product that is equal weight in a package, even though it's not a real product, or I'm going to send back a counterfeit. It's hitting every e-com business. So it's like, how do we detect it? How do we find these bad actors? Because it's technically not fraud, it's policy abuse, which is a completely different area. And it's something that they have to come and think about, where, like Tanner said, great, there was bots, hype product, but now it's hitting almost every line of business within a company's org. You can't recapture that product. It's a zero sale.
Like this is fascinating to me, like stuff that I don't think about as a consumer, but then impacts me too.
Yeah.
Now you have to pay a reshipping fee, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm getting impacted. Like 1% of what we've seen from our customers is 1% of bad actors contribute to about 15% of returns. That's a huge number. So when H&M or Zara calls, not our customers yet, but I can't say that yet. Can't say that, but you get the point. Like they're charging people $4.99 for returns and shipping because of these bad actors. We shouldn't be impacted. We didn't do anything to harm their policy. It's the 1% who are really impacting and taking advantage.
That's fascinating. Now I'm just like, before the episode, we asked Tanner if there was one thing that he would want entrepreneurs to learn from you. What would that be? And he said to know more about the problem than anyone else in the world. And it's very clear from just our short conversation already that is you. You know more about this problem than anyone else in the world. How did you come to that? Like, how do you have the time to research that? How do you do that? Like, they're an ever evolving problem. How do you stay up to date with something that is constantly changing?
When you're equated to a raccoon with broadband, you've been on the internet for a long time. Okay.
Yeah, with the Red Bull. You forgot with the Red Bull.
With the Red Bull.
Yeah.
I'm on the internet. I'm constantly doing threat intelligence. My background was a botter. I was a reseller at some point. Like I won't age myself, but I was doing this for Justin Bieber tickets, right? Like How do we write a Selenium script? How do we do this before it was a nice GUI package and I paid $200 subscription for a bot, which is wild to me when it's like a few lines of code. I came from this world. It was a passion project of me. So then transitioning to the threat intelligence side was I'm chronically on the internet. I love solving this problem. I wake up and the only thing I want to do is like do big data and do data engineering for this. It makes me so happy, and finding the clues and puzzles. I'm a big puzzle and Lego person. It's essentially what I do every single day. And so once you're staring at data and you've been doing it for as long as I have, it becomes a mystery game of how do I get smarter? How do I outsmart the policy abusers?
Do you ever get to a dip, or does it ever become mundane, or you're just like, this is my problem and I'm passionate about it?
Hey, I'm not going to lie, staring at like a CSV file or BigQuery table at times is not the most like fun and sexy.
What?
I was shocked here. Jogging. And when I do, that's when you take breaks. You go outside, you clear your mind. I mean, I'm luckily at a position where it's not my only thing that I do on a day-to-day. Like I get to talk with clients and get to involve clients in threat intelligence and make them knowledgeable to the problems. But it's also it's not a mundane area because bad actors are quick. So you patch a loophole, it's a constant cat and mouse game. You're never going to catch 99%. Like you're never going to catch 100%. Anyone who tells you that, it's a lie. But it's how do we catch 80, 75%, 60%, and how do we stay up to date with our techniques makes it non-mundane.
I love that. Tanner, 2 questions for you. The first one, so how do you stay energized at your job? I'd love to know your approach to that as well.
Yeah, I think as VCs, in some ways, we have the inverse problem, which is we are involved in so many different things that you don't ever get to deep work on it. You feel, it's shallow. It can feel shallow work because you have 10 minutes of context and then you jump to the fintech and then you jump to internet company and then you jump to a SaaS company. So for me, I think it's just, I feel lucky that I'm like, I get to learn. For me, like, I think one of my core values is just being a curious person. And so when I think about it, it's like Alex is the expert on bots. So who better to learn from and get knowledge from and try to help than somebody who cares about solving a problem and who is an expert on something that, not that many people really understand. So for me, it's like remembering that entrepreneurs, they're the main stars of the show. And you're like, how can I be a supporting actor in a bunch of different shows that I can support them in whatever it is they're doing? I think that helps. And then, it's like life balance stuff. There's certainly ebbs and flows when I was joking with some people here internally on my wife that like during February, March in Utah, like it can get kind of tough when it's been cloudy for a week straight and you've been on Zoom calls all day. So I think there's just like good life balance stuff, getting outside, snowboarding or skiing, stuff like that.
Or both.
Hard life out in Utah.
Yeah.
Hard life.
Really, really tough. And Tanner, why is it so important for entrepreneurs to know more about the problem than anyone else in the world? Why was this the takeaway you want listeners to walk away with?
Yeah, I think when we think about what kills most startups, I think Gavin has said this a few times, it's apathy. It's like people just don't care. And oftentimes because people are just busy on whatever it is they're busy on. And so one, I love it when like an entrepreneur's problem obsessed, because the solution often changes and evolves over time. Like what Alex thought she was solving 2 or 3 years ago is very different than what she's solving today. But if, as a product person, what we always talk about is like, you're solving for the job to be done. Like people don't want a screwdriver, they want a screw in the wall. And so if you remember that, then like you always have a North Star. You keep yourself in business by solving a real problem. And that's where product and ultimately companies are fun. Like when you actually solve a problem for somebody, it's not about the microphone here. It's about like the audio quality that then leads to a cool conversation that somebody wants to hear. And so I think that's the right framing. We've seen people that come forward with like technology first solutions where they're like, hey, I see this technology, and they try to find a solution, and that can work. It doesn't mean it's the wrong way, but like I feel like the more tried and true way is like you really know that problem, and you can then go figure out how to solve it with whatever tools you can find.
Yeah, And Alex, you're a young entrepreneur. I mean, you're on the 30 under 30 list. We're not going to ask you for your exact age. We never will. But have you ever felt, I'm just going to point, I'm curious, have you ever felt underestimated because of your age? Like you were doing organic chemistry at 15. You are so knowledgeable about, everything that you're solving, but have you ever felt underestimated?
So I'll caveat this with I'm a Capricorn. And so I'm on a mission in life. I've never really used age to underestimate myself. Like, I know what I know. If you're going to use my age to question me, it's your perspective. And I think it's hard being a young entrepreneur where people will use your age against you, but it's hard to get domain expertise. The fact that I do have domain expertise at a younger age is to my benefit. It allows me to grow where this policy abuse grows. It allows me to be cool enough to hang out in Discord and Telegram and still understand how to use those products. So, I mean, my advice there is if you feel like you're too young to start a company, like I'm not Mark Zuckerberg's age by any means, but I'm not going to let it use against me.
Yeah, Tanner, any thoughts on that? Or do you have any hesitations investing in young entrepreneurs who are doing it for the first time?
Yes, I mean, there's trade-offs for whatever stage of career you're at. I saw an entrepreneur talking about this. Like when you're young, you have more energy, you have more time, you potentially have less people dependence, and so there's benefits. Whereas when you're potentially more seasoned, you have more experience, you might have more domain expertise. So I think there's age benefits that Alex showed that occur with this business. Like it's hard for somebody that's not internet native, that doesn't understand sneakerhead culture, that doesn't understand Discord, that doesn't understand who bots are. Like bots, I mean, demographically are typically young. Like, so there's times when that makes a lot of sense versus if Alex was, the age she was and she was developing those shoes for 60-year-old plus dads and Air Monarchs, like there may be less natural like reasons why that's a good fit. So there's things that we think about from like an age perspective. There's types of industries that might play well, but ultimately it is like way down the list from just like ambition, intelligence, ethics, integrity, like all of those things. And so when we thought about Alex and you're like, hey, she's an expert here. She's been at Nike. She's been at Apple. She's seen it. She was, doing AI at the University of Utah. Like that's, when we think about like you have domain experience, she had that in really interesting ways. And so, that like age wasn't really something we didn't think about.
Yeah. Alex, what do you know now that you didn't at the beginning of your founder journey that you would counsel, first time or young entrepreneurs on?
Your product doesn't have to be perfect. I'm a very perfect product person. I will coddle my product until I think it's perfect. There's some times where it's like, just get the MVP out there, iterate quickly. The quicker you iterate, the quicker feedback you get. Like we hit our stride in the last 8 months, I would say. We started doing, Jordan and I both come from a product background. Mine is data product. Jordan is like software and cloud-based product. And both of us were like, the product's not ready yet. And that really held us back. If I were to tell myself a year and a half ago, just put it out there, ship it, we'll iterate quickly, let's do that. But we kind of built, when you're in the space of policy abuse, you have to build stuff like graph databases, you have to build gold plumbing. And by skipping those steps, it's really hard to do. But at the same time, it definitely hindered us a bit, not detrimentally, but we wanted to have the right foundation and a perfect product. And sometimes shipping a little bit sooner can be okay. And then second piece of advice is never feel bad firing quick. I tend to be a nice person, and times you get emotional, especially like, oh, this was our first engineering hire. Even though the person isn't right, you always feel emotional letting go the first person. I don't think any person that we decided to let go was ever a regret. And it's a constant theme through entrepreneurship where it's like, focus on building. If they're not the right person, always be grateful to that person and what they contribute. Just don't think about it.
How did you know it was time to fire? So yeah, a lot of advice we give often is, hire slowly, fire quickly. But what's the moment when you kind of know? I don't know, Tanner, if you've got any thoughts on that too.
Yeah. this is one of those, there's certain startup and VC truisms that like have only become more true in my experience, is in that if you think that somebody is not a fit, I've never seen somebody think they fired too fast. And I continue to see other examples of that. And so moving quickly on that, just in my experience, I have not seen a founder that has regretted that.
It's also mutually beneficial, right? At some point, the other person's happier. They're not getting demand. They're not feeling stressed about being in a situation that they want to be in as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And then that's like back to that intuition. Like a lot of times you just know, and it sits there and it's a hard decision. It's a really hard decision to make. And it has to be done in the right way. But once it's like, hey, I think that's the right way to perceive it, is what's best for both of us or all of us.
Yeah, it's great insight. So I have two final questions for us, and I was debating which one to do first, but I do need to know who can do more push-ups. Like, you've never answered that. You just threw that out there, and now we've just been left hanging the whole time. So
I'm gonna have to say Tanner, but maybe that summer at Nike. Questionable.
We'll never know.
Questionable.
Apparently, we'll never know.
I, Alex, somehow don't remember. I remember sitting in that room.
Tanner, we went on the ground.
I must have blocked this out of my memory. I like remember the other stuff.
Dramatic, and so it's.
I actually went on the ground and did push-ups too.
We literally went on the ground and did push-ups, and I don't even remember which conference banquet hall we were at Nike, but it was like the grad section, underground section, and I was like, push-ups now. Fun fact: I can't really do a push-up. So, anywho's, who was I to antagonize Tanner?
It used to be so fun. What happened?
I know. So fun. Never forget Thursdays.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing.
So good. And the final question I do have, and something, Alex, that we ask everybody, and that is, what's an effective practice that you've implemented in your work or personal life that you think has had a great impact on your success?
It's something that we brought into the company, and it's one thing that you will prioritize over work itself, over anything that you need to do. So for me, it's always walking my dog. I could have a call. I'll always walk my dog. I'll always be walking Yofi while talking about Yofi. I will always prioritize that because it's good for my health, good for my mental space, and it allows me to breathe and catch up. For example, Jordan Singh is always watching a Manchester United game. So granted, good thing we're in the US because they happen to be early in the mornings. Yep. So he can wake up at 4 a.m. and watch Man U, and that's his prioritization. So always prioritize one thing above work, whatever you need. Some of our other teammates, it's cooking, it's baking, but for me, it's walking Yofi. And if I was still in Utah, I would be hiking up an I Street. I miss I Street and the bike jump.
I Street, like in the avenues?
Yeah, 18th Ave and I Street. So good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I love it. I love it up here.
You're always welcome back, Alex.
Yep, anytime. Tanner, what were your thoughts on that?
It's a good question. I think something that I was thinking about earlier is we've talked about this a lot. Listening to books and podcasts and getting other information. For me, what I've been thinking about, I like history a lot. And so history, when I read history, it just helps me put things in perspective, helps me think about big patterns and changes and macro cycles. Right now I've been reading about the Silk Roads and the rise and fall of all these empires. And there's just all these like challenges that the empires face, whether it's like bundling or unbundling, who they ally with, how they run succession within their kingdom, how they use technology, whether they assimilate with another culture or whether they move that culture out. So for me, it's really what helps me then is to have something that's like not directly connected, like history, that then like spurs my thoughts on what I do in my job. So that that allows me to geek out a little bit. And Alex,
hey, Tanner, how many times a week do you think about the Roman Empire?
No.
How many times?
A few. But I'm going a lot of empires right now. I'm adding.
Do you have a favorite empire, like empiric period?
Right now, it's the Ottomans.
Fair.
Yeah. What they did in Turkey. I love the style. They have these really cool, they kind of introduced nightlife. And they did a lot of cool things. And some bad things, like all empires.
I was going to say, they also did some, yeah.
Yeah. The story of all empires. They
all empires,
did some good things and a lot of bad things.
Yeah. Story of life. Well, thank you both so much for being on the show today. It's been an amazing discussion. Alex, really grateful for your insights. So excited about all you're working on and all the work you're doing to help all of us who don't even know all that's going on in the background. So thank you for saving the world for us.
Thank you so much for having me.